everybody, it's Caroline, and I'm joined once again by our favourite flamehead league lover, it's Ali.
Hi.
And welcome to the show where we get you up to date on all things League of Legends. This week we're chatting about patch 9.6, and if you're wondering what happened to 9.5, you can blame Ali.
I went on holiday.
Anyway, let's get to it. So first up, we have champion changes. Ali, what's been happening?
Okay, so we got a couple of minor balance changes. One is to Caitlyn, who's getting an ult nerf, which just basically means 50 less damage on every tier of her ult. And Xayah, who's getting an attack speed buff on her W, but those are quite minor. In comparison, there are some bigger changes elsewhere. The first of those is that the Mystic Shot AP ratio on Ezreal is just completely gone.
That seems pretty drastic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a little bit. So the AP ratio is going completely, but the AD ratio is staying in place. But to kind of help make sure that he doesn't lose all of that power, the AP ratio is increasing on his W, Essence Flux. That'll help, obviously, but kind of in order to make sure that that spell doesn't kind of become overpowered now, Riot are trying to help out. So he'll now lose a bit of sieging potential. And the Detonate on Essence Flux will now only do 50% damage to towers. And to kind of help out even further, there is again a slight nerf to his ult. So he won't be able to clear minions quite as effectively or get off those long-range snipes in the same way.
So those changes are quite small compared to the other ones that we're going to be seeing, right?
Yeah, so Urgot in particular is getting a lot of changes. He'll now be able to spam his passive against the same champion or the same target without drop-off, so that'll help him just clear through stuff and really blast champions out of the way if he needs to. And there are also a couple of changes to his W and his E. So the shield is coming off his W, but its cost and cooldown are going down to make up for that, whereas it's going on to his E, and they'll see the cost and cooldown go up. The last change is not huge, but his ultimate is getting a significant range increase. So it's going from 1,800 units, which is already quite a long way, up to 2,500 units. So if you're low and he wants to execute you, you really have to make sure you're not nearby, because he will just pull you in, chomp you up, and that'll be the end.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense. And those are all the changes that we definitely know are happening for sure. But what about the ones that we're not super sure on?
Okay, so the reason we have Teemo with us today is that Teemo is in line for one of these mini-rework things that we saw with Vi quite recently. So there's no guarantee that it's going to come this patch, because again, like with Vi, we saw three PBE cycles worth of iteration on these. But Teemo kind of what we imagine he'll end up with, or what Riot are testing around, is already on the PBE. It might be a couple of patches before it shows up, but we'll walk you through them. So the easy takeaway here is that Teemo's passive and E are getting turned around. So Toxic Shot will now be moved onto his passive. So straight away at the beginning of the match, you will have passive damage over time. On every single basic attack you do, you won't have to level up your E. Well, you will have to level up your E because it will be its own ability now. So Guerrilla Warfare will now be an active effect, which will guarantee a little more ability to move around. So previously, if Teemo, he could stand still and go invisible, but if he moved outside of a bush, he would immediately be seen. He's got a very small radius that he can stay invisible in now. So it's it scales up from 5 Teemo champion sizes to 9 Teemo champion sizes as you level up from 1 to 5. So you'll have a little bit more freedom, but largely those two abilities will be the same. The big difference to take away is for Toxic Shot, which will now no longer scale with AP. So it doesn't matter how you build, you'll only scale based on the scaling of the ability at this current point. So I think that's a quite considerable nerf, but we'll come back to that. Elsewhere, W's not really changing, and neither is his ultimate, which allows him to kind of scavenge mushrooms and poisonous mushroom traps that he can place around the map. He will now be able to carry more of them, but they will do the same damage. The only other change to mention is that the scaling and damage on his Q is going down.
So does that mean our little friend might be just a little bit less annoying?
I don't think so. I think arguably he's going to be even more annoying, because he'll be less annoying for the person playing against him, but more annoying for the person playing with him. I feel like in their current state, these changes are quite a significant nerf, because essentially they're taking a lot of damage away from his E, well, his new passive, by not giving it AP scaling. And they're taking damage off his Q, and they're trying to do something to make you play around his Q and passive combo now, but I don't think that's going to make up for the AP scaling nerfs. And the other changes they're making, I mean, he can carry more mushrooms, but the mushrooms will do slightly less damage, and he can be a little bit more kind of tactical around the use of his E, but I'm not sure those are made up for, or those make up for the changes to the Q and the passive.
Sorry, Teemo, I tried. You can go back now. So, Ali, tell me about runes and items. Is there anything cool happening that I need to know about?
There's nothing really happening to items. There's a very slight tweak to Brawler's gloves, and that will have a very slight knock-on, but nothing notable. Bigger change is in runes. There'll be a tweak to Ghost Porro, which basically means that instead of having something run after you when you run into a bush, Ghost Porros will spawn kind of in place of zombie wards, like they'll show up when your wards expire, but crucially not when your wards get killed, so make sure you're putting them in a good spot.
And last of all, it's my favourite bit, and that's skins. So, Ali, what do we got?
Okay, so patch 9.6 has some of the best skins we've seen in ages. They're April Fool's skins, so every year Riot does something kind of daft and puts it out with April Fools, which is this patch. And they're always very silly, but they're often very adorable. This year is no exception. And so we've got kind of a cats versus dogs theme. So if you're a dog person, you've got Corgi Corki, which is literally just Corki riding a Corgi, but it's also kind of rainbow powered, which is a lot of fun. And you've also got Fuzz Fizz, which, I mean, Fizz is traditionally a fish. This time they have replaced him with like a Springer Spaniel, and they've replaced the shark on his ultimate with this enormous dumb looking dog, which is a lot of fun. Okay,
but what if I'm a cat person, then what?
Okay, so you've still got some skins to pick from, but I think personally are a little less well catered to.
Bummer.
So you've got Pretty Kitty Rengar, which puts everyone's favourite knife cat within his own cat onesie. So you've got some nice catception going on.
Love it.
You've also got Meowrick or Meowrick, I'm not really sure how to kind of pronounce it, but it puts Yorick, who's traditionally a gravedigger, in his own cat onesie and replaces his ghouls with really weirdly long-legged cats. It's kind of upsetting.
And it's threatening, right? It's scary.
It's
in a weird way.
In a weird way, not really the way you want. But I am, unfortunately, for the cat people, siding with the dogs this time around.
I would probably also agree with you on that one. Sorry, cat people. That's everything from me and Ali about everything you need to know about League of Legends patch 9.6. Let us know in the comments whether you're a cat or a dog person, because we kind of really want to know.
If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.